Welcome to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Now, into the program.
Welcome back to another edition of Community Voices. I'm Dr. Tarence Lauchie here on 91.9 FM, the People's Choice. Excited about today's interview and conversation, dialogue, really, with somebody who loves to laugh and is doing something really great, not only for our community, but for people and people's lives. I've got a guest who's been here a couple of times before and always a good time to have conversation about laughter. So I'd like for you to help me to welcome Wendy Wigger. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a delight to be able to have a conversation with you and with your audience as well.
It's always a privilege to do so. I like to smile and I like to laugh. I think we were talking a little bit off air about how I'm a student of Scripture, and there is one that talks specifically about laughter. And it says laughter does good like medicine.
I love it.
Yeah, and so I use it often when things are not going the way that I think they should, or life is happening. You know, life, it does that. And so I often, turn to laughter and humor. But there's laughter with a cause that's going to be happening here. So
you're absolutely right.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
And I think what I really appreciate you calling out that scripture, because our organization, Gilda's Club, is named after Gilda Radner. She was a Saturday Night Live comedian who unfortunately died of her ovarian cancer in about 1989.
I was going to say 19.
Dyslexia kind of kicked in.
I watched Saturday Night Live from a kid, and it wasn't in the 1800s.
No,
it was the 1900s.
You're right, and I watched it too when you only saw it on Saturday night.
Exactly.
There was no DVR,
Netflix. Got more than 50 years now.
I know. They're celebrating 50 years. But I think one of the things when Gilda became diagnosed with her cancer, she really talked about that her job was about making funny and being funny, and that cancer wasn't going to change that.
Yeah.
And so when Gilda Radner was on her cancer journey, she found this community of support that provided emotional health support where she could be real and she could embrace all of life's emotions, the sadness as well as the joy. Sure. And she was known for one time saying, cancer's so unfunny, it needed somebody like me to give people permission to laugh.
Well, funny she definitely was. She was one of my favorite characters on Saturday Night.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, Rosanna was probably the...
Exactly. Emily Littell. There's so many different... Lisa Looper with Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
So, Gilda Radner is the namesake for our organization, Gilda's Club Grand Rapids. And I think true to her spirit, we embrace the laughter, which is all of what Laughfest is about, but we also embrace the emotional spectrum of the tough times in life, too. Sure. And your scripture is so meaningful to me, and I'm sure to so many people, of just understanding that you can hold space both for the tears and the fears and the sadness and the laughter all in the same time.
Something my wife said to me a couple of days ago, we were talking about a very similar situation where there was joy on one side and sadness on the other, that two things can be true at the same time.
They sure can.
You can have laughter and joy in the midst of trials and hard times. And even right now, our world is going through some tumultuous change, and I like to put it as that. And there's some people that are pretty darkened by the experiences, and then there's some people who will refuse to let go of the joy and the laughter. Yeah.
I read once that the sky is, or the dawn is always darkest right before the light comes up, and so I think you're talking about that tumultuous change is so true, that we need to be able to continue to hold that light and create the brightness, even when we feel like we might be in a dark space, personally or just in a world space.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why the yellow, I love brightening up when you're in Michigan in the middle of March.
We need it.
You need it more than ever.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I love about at Gilda's Club, where we provide emotional health support to anybody on a cancer journey or connected to somebody to cancer, or anyone that's experiencing grief due to a death of any cause, not just cancer related, that we really allow people to come in and be real and to feel that space of both the sadness, the celebrations, the laughter. I think sometimes people are surprised when they come to Gildas Club that one of the most heard emotions is laughter.
Yeah.
Because you can feel comfortable and you can be able to just really call it as it is, whatever emotion you're feeling.
It's an instinctive response that I think it's a God-given gift for us
Yes.
to be able to do that. I don't know of very many other animals that laugh other than hyenas, which they say are laughing hyenas.
Yes.
But I don't think they're laughing. I think that only humans who have human life experiences have the privilege or the gift of laughter. I think it helps us with our emotional health, our emotional well-being. How have you been? Speaking of that, over the last, I guess it's been a year since we talked.
It's been a year.
Is life good? I know you've been busy with this, but
Yeah. I could be brought to emotions very quickly. I just had a favorite aunt that passed away yesterday.
oh wow, so
And
sorry.
so at the same time, the holding space for the beauty of who she was and the family and the sadness that I feel and the excitement of what Laughfest will bring to this community. So kind of holding the space for both.
Sure.
I think from a festival standpoint, it's amazing that we are actually celebrating our 15th year of Laughfest.
Wow.
Some people that have been around in the community that
Been
long
around.
might remember little yellow signs popping up
Yep. Even
all
sticky
over.
notes. We got sticky note
Yes.
pads in the mail, and we used them for different
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
And people at the time, when they didn't know it was part of Gildas Club, were head scratching, going like, what is this all about? Is this?
That was
you
a
know,
very, very crafty way of marketing.
I
something that stuck
agree.
around.
And we had some friends to help us in that strategy, but we were stealthily kind of putting signs in different places in the community.
I've got a little button I still wear.
Oh,
from time
Thank
to
you.
time.
Which is a great thing to point out because our High Five campaign, which is associated with that button,
Yeah.
is also going to be taking place now through the festival.
Well,
where
talk about the high five.
It's a beautiful thing. We have buttons, and what we do is for people that want to donate $5 or more, we'll never turn that away. They get this button. They can do it online or they can do it at any of the events during the festival. Meyer has graciously been able to provide a $20,000 match. So we want to at least raise $20,000 in high fives. And that the proceeds from that and the proceeds from Laughfest itself do help to support our free emotional health program for cancer and grief. I often say that free is expensive.
Exactly. It may be
You know?
free to somebody, but somebody else had to pay for it.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
use it all the time. I use it in messages and everything. I even talk about salvation. Salvation's free, but Jesus paid for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that sometimes when people think of Gilda's Club, they think you have to pay a membership fee, and you've already paid. You've already are on one of life's toughest chapters, be it cancer or be it grief. So all the services that we offer, either through the clubhouse in in person or virtual, or what we're doing in the community, even we've got an in-schools program, all of that is offered free of charge.
I think that's great. I don't know if you remember, I shared with you that I had a cancer journey as well, of which
Yes.
I've come out victoriously.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating more than 14 years, almost 15
Oh, my
years
goodness.
of being cancer-free. And when I had the diagnosis, it was pretty bleak. I was given a certain number of months that I was supposed to expire, but instead, both laughter and faith and commitment to live. I think we live beyond our physical time here on the earth. And I'm not speaking of some spooky reincarnation. I'm talking the joy that we put in people's lives or the legacies that we live, not the legacies that we leave. Sometimes people confuse legacy as being something that's left behind. That's part of it, but it's what we live. And the reason I asked how you were doing is because I just sense that this is a heartfelt passion work for you.
It
And
is.
it's part of your legacy. It's part of who you are.
I am going to carry that little nugget with me after this interview because that is just so beautifully stated and something that I can really latch onto and believe in as well. And I think one of the things that we talk about in terms of living, it is putting the emphasis on live. So if somebody has a cancer diagnosis or connected to somebody with cancer, or if you've just experienced a death and are navigating grief, it's living with that diagnosis. It's living
Because
with
we
the grief.
continue to live.
Yes, and it's being able to navigate that tough stuff in life and be able to really kind of travel through regardless of what the outcome is. I mean, Gilda Radner, unfortunately, was misdiagnosed until they figured it out, and at that point, she lived her life as fully as she could, even though
absolutely.
she wasn't able to, beat cancer, so to speak. She did put an emphasis on living with that diagnosis.
I remember watching episodes, like I said, as a kid, of Saturday Night Live, and even when that diagnosis was announced, she wasn't private about it.
No.
It was public. I remember when she shaved her head. I
Yes.
remember when
Yep.
that became part of the skit.
Yep.
So it's always something that is a reality to deal with, life and death.
It is.
We have power, though, of life and death in our tongues, in what we say and how we say it. Talk a little bit about the lineup for the festival, because that's coming soon. I know that it's going to be, a city full of excitement and joy, but at the same time,
Right.
there's some pretty serious, funny people.
Yeah, and running this year, our 15th year from March 4th through March 9, we really tried to provide a plethora of different activities and events for people. So it's both ticketed and free. And the ticketed shows, what we have, everything from what we call clean comedy showcases, where I want to make sure people understand it's adult content. I wouldn't bring my little kids, but it is, it's adult content, but without any of the profanity
No
and such.
vulgarity. It's clean
Right,
content.
right.
Yeah.
And we also do have things that are a little bit what we call anything goes, which is exactly that. The website will give people a good indication as to what the show
Oh, yeah.
is branded.
And you got to know what you're walking into.
You
I
do.
have a son who's a Christian comedian, a Christian stand-up comedian. In fact, he did one of the smaller shows some years back when he first got started.
Beautiful.
Along with Hinsap.
Oh, I
Hinsap.
love Hin.
Yeah, Hin
Yeah,
opened the
that
door
whole-
for him, and he's taken off in a career of Christian comedy.
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That is so beautiful.
So I know about the clean comedy and
the other
anything
stuff.
go.
Yeah. And what we recognized right from the start with the festival is that we don't all laugh at the same things,
Exactly.
but we all do laugh. And that's okay. And part of the launch of the festival 15 years ago was to raise visibility of who we are and what we do, because we figured with a mission of cancer and grief, we're not the organization that people necessarily want to think about, but are glad to have in the community when cancer or grief hits.
Absolutely.
So we figured if we could get people to laugh, we could get them to listen.
Sure.
And
when
so,
they listen, they respond. And when
they respond.
they give.
Yes,
and when they
exactly.
Give, it helps. It helps the cause.
It does. And so this year's lineup, we have everybody from Gabby Bryan, we have Adam Soder, we have Gabby Bryan, we have Adam Ray, we
Okay.
have Dan Soder, a guy that goes by Corey B. I couldn't even try to pronounce his real last name. The Clean Comedy Showcase is always kind of fun. You've got about 5 comedians for the price of 1 ticket. I think that there is things that we have that are some local talent. Pop Scholars is always fun.
Okay.
River City Improv. Those are groups that perform year-round, but they're local here, and they put on some fabulous shows as well. A really fun event for families, in my opinion, is on Saturday at Gildas Club, so the parking's free. We have a whole morning of family fun. So you've got drumming with Josh. Everybody can come without instruments. He has everything available to you. Drumming with Josh, we have a family improv, and we have kids joke. And if there's a favorite of mine, it has to be the kids joke.
Because
where
you get kid amateur comedians doing stand up.
You sure do. And some of them make up their own jokes, which are a little hard to understand, but we all laugh anyway.
Of course.
And some of
Because everything
them,
is laughable.
exactly.
It's laughable.
Exactly.
If you can find some humor in it, it's laughable.
And those kids are so brave. It's nothing I would have had the nerve to do at that age, to stand up in front of all these people that you don't know.
Let's just say I can relate.
Yeah.
Let's just say I can relate. I can remember entertaining our family at holidays, and my son got it honest. So it's definitely good. I don't know. Joy and laughter, I think, are very underestimated tools that we have.
I would agree.
So these events and each of the venues and each of the artists, the talent, is doing something I think really commendable in being able to focus the attention of laughter onto something that makes a difference in people's lives. I can't say that enough. I think that's really important, because it's not just another comedy show. It's not just another funny moment.
And I appreciate you highlighting that, because while comedy is part of it, and those tickets and the proceeds from it, because we are paying for the artists, some people think they're coming for free, they're not, and the production and the venue, it's the proceeds that support it. But it's not just about the ticketed events. It is about embracing laughter for the health of
Yeah,
it.
and there's a community around this. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So it's going to be, a 15th year of celebration of laughter, joy, just wanting to bring the community together. I think that's one of the important things at Gilda's Club that Gilda Radner discovered was when you come together as a community, there's a unique element of strength and support for one another. And even though it might sound strange to think that Laughfest brings community, there's one of the favorite comedians of mine, his name is PJ Welsh. He said, laughter is the surprise recognition that you're not alone. You can be in a room full of strangers, and when you share a moment of laughter together, you now have a connection that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty beautiful.
Even if you're laughing at yourself.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, I do that all the time.
I told my son, I said, well, in being a comedian or in comedy work, you got to be careful to make sure that people are laughing with you and not laughing at you.
Yes.
And people could be pretty vicious in laughing at you, but laughing with makes all the difference in the world. We're kind of halfway through our dialogue. Let's do some reflection. Let's go back. You mentioned a favorite talent or a favorite comedian. Yeah. What year was your favorite year for Laughfest, and what made it stand out to you? What was most unique?
Oh, my goodness. Honestly,
because you've been with it the whole full 15.
I've been there the whole 15 years, yes.
You were a little girl when you started, right?
Yeah, 5. One could wish. No, I have to say, every year has its own specialness. For me, probably would have been 2011, the first year of Laughfest. Okay. And the reason I say that was, one, it was the surprise attack. The community didn't know what was going to happen, and there was a media outlet that found out of 2 artists that were coming, but they didn't know the whole span of what was happening.
Which was
right?
part of the marketing scheme.
Well, it wasn't really.
Really?
Somebody leaked. Somebody wasn't supposed to leak, but somebody leaked to Suzanne Jiha at the time. And so there was an awareness that there were Betty White and another artist were coming in that first year, but they didn't know the whole complexity of the festival because when we started, it was a 10-day, it's now a 5-day festival. Right. It's a right recipe now. But I think what made it so special was we didn't understand, honestly, we were so naive, gratefully, to be able to be a small organization to launch something like this. But it was successful because the community embraced it. And when we got to the end of the festival, Leanne Arkema was the CEO at the time. I was not in this role. I remember her saying to our team, how do you feel? And we did kind of a round robin.
Yeah.
And for me, I said, I feel like we just gave the community a hug, and it hugged back. And it still gives me goosebumps today to think about the beauty of hundreds of volunteers, of sponsors, of people that came out just to enjoy and embrace a great time.
The proof is in the track record, too. Think about it. You still have some support. You want to talk about some of your sponsors or some of the people who are partners?
Oh, that's so kind of you. Well, I mentioned already Meijer. Meijer has been a wonderful sponsor. They're putting up $20,000 match for the high fives. They're also putting $20,000 up for our gala as a match where Preacher Lawson is coming on March 19th.
Now, I follow Preacher Lawson on social media. The guy is hilarious.
He is hilarious, and I'm looking forward to having a good time. But that's coming about a week and a half after the actual festival. Yeah. Gun Lake Casino Resort is our presenting partner. Sharp Collection, I mentioned that we rolled up in a beautiful car. I know, with a wonderful volunteer that drove because I'm too scared to drive those beautiful cars.
Shout out to Sarah, right? Shout out to Sarah.
Shout out to Sarah's right. And, so we've got so many different people that have helped us. Seafirth PR is our PR firm that helps to get the message out and set up these kind of interviews and opportunities and such. There's just so many wonderful people that have come around or continue to come around to help support through their sponsorship to make this festival a reality.
Talk about how people can get tickets, and there's quite a few events. There's
There's over 45 events over those 5 days.
events. So is there one central location? There's even a gospel fest.
There is a gospel
Yeah,
fest.
and many of our listening audience members
They
would probably
will
be
love
interested
that.
in the gospel fest.
Thursday, that is going to be happening on Thursday, March 6th,
Okay.
the Gospel Fest. What that is it's a festival that Gildas Club always put on with our Sisters to Sisters program, of African American support for cancer and grief. I have to do a shout out for Tracy, my lovely co-worker that I have such an opportunity to work with. That festival usually was happening in the fall, and we thought, you know what? I bet we could get more attention and more celebration of praise as well as laughter if we baked it into Laughfest. So that's one of the things that we did this year.
Okay.
You can get tickets in the whole lineup at laughfestgr.org. You can then search it by the day of the week, depending on what you have available. You can search it in terms of types of comedy, family-friendly, clean adult, whatever you're looking at for free events. Tickets you would be able to purchase right off that website. It will direct you to where you can get the tickets at. And if there are tickets still available, because we usually take the tickets offline about 2 hours before the show, and we'll make an announcement there. If tickets are still available at that point, the remaining tickets would be available for purchase at the door.
So there are opportunities beyond what's on the site if a person wants to.
Yes,
still
yeah.
go.
The one caveat I would say right now, I could tell you Corey B., both at Gun Lake Casino Resort as well as the show in Lowell, tickets are pretty much cleaned out.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious about
You
that.
said you had trouble communicating Corey's last name. Let's try it.
You can try it.
It would be kind of funny to do that, right? So Corey B. Let's see. How will we pronounce Corey B's?
Yeah, right here. You want to try that?
Bonalewski.
That's what I would have said too.
Bonalewski.
And I'm going to ask him when I see him at one of the shows because
He'll probably bake me into his material if I messed it up
you
pretty
go.
bad. But I get it a lot. Lauchie is spelled kind of different, and people call me Lauchie.
Okay.
Lauchie,
Well, and I have to introduce Corey in the Lowell show, so you can be guaranteed I'm going to ask him how do I say it the right way. Otherwise, I'll get really nervous and I'll just say, "And Corey B is here tonight."
Well, I'm sure you've had some challenges with people using your name and how it rhymes.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
It's
There's a little challenge in all.
There's a
of it.
little challenge in all of life, yeah. So my dad is Dutch, and he, I'm blessed to carry on his name as well as my hyphenated name once I got married. So
Yeah, well, what made me think about it is I know Preacher Lawson would take something like that and eat it up.
oh, I bet.
Is he one of the headliners? He's one of the big.
He is our gala. He's the gala talent, which is happening on March 19 at Meyer Frederick Gardens in Sculptor Park. There are some single tickets available. It is a pricier ticket, but that's because $100 of that ticket does go directly to support Gildas Club.
Nice.
He's going to be a treat. I'm telling you, people are very
That
excited.
might be the one my wife and I go to.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. He is going to be a treat. I'm very excited about
I
that
stumbled
show.
upon him on social media. I don't know how I got a reel or something. He was, talking about he and his mom, and the relationship that he has with his mom.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but
Surprise visit?
his mom is traveling with him.
There you go.
So
It's gonna be
there,
good.
it's going to be good.
It's
you
going
know
to be good.
it is.
So listen, I'm endorsing that. And he's clean comedy too. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm endorsing that if you got to get some tickets, that might be the one you want to get to.
Yes, yeah, I would not disagree with you at all there.
What would you like to say to our listening audience as an appeal? I'm pushing it and supporting it because as a cancer survivor, I think anything relating to helping people through the grief process is valuable. I've got 4 friends right now that is experiencing a cancer journey.
Right.
All of which don't have to end in sadness or sorrow, and some of which we don't know how they may end. But
You're
in
absolutely
the midst
right.
of it, we live every day and we laugh every day.
You said it so beautifully, and I think that's one of the things is that we do know just from statistics, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will have a cancer diagnosis sometime in their life. So basically, nearly everyone will be connected to somebody that has been impacted by cancer either directly or indirectly.
Sure.
And I think the message I would say is that all of your audience right now, they are now what I would say walking billboards for us. They know a little bit more about Gilda's Club. They can help to communicate the mission. If they know of somebody that's in that life tough chapter of cancer or for grief, they can let them know that they can contact us. There's no commitment. Just explore what kind of resources. We have over 250 activities and events that happen on a monthly basis, including a dinner that we provide free of charge almost every evening that we're open. We want to try to remove any barriers from people getting involved. The support groups are all professionally led.
Yeah, I met a couple of them. Yeah.
They're wonderful. Yeah. But we even have things like today, there was a watercolor class going on when I left. There's knitwits that are knitting hats and prayer shawls. We have everything from lectures and information. And it's only
testimonials. I heard of
testimonials. And it's really there's no should. We don't should on people. We allow people to be able to define for themselves what feels right for them in terms of definition of support and a level of engagement.
That's awesome. I think that makes all the difference in the world when we're talking about helping people from the perspective of what their needs are, not necessarily what we think they ought to have.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and that makes all the difference in the world. It's sort of like the golden rule, platinum. You know,
I like that.
Yeah, the platinum version.
You're giving me so many nuggets I'm going to walk away with and share in my own life. Thank you.
Listen, I've been known to, talk a lot, but I like to talk a lot about good stuff. I think what's happening with Laughfest 2025, March 5th through 9th, is worth checking out. The website again is
laughfestgr.org.
laughfestgr.org. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we can talk about some of the other logistics that you may have, or we can talk about Gildas. Gildas is definitely something that people can check out, outside of Laughfest.
Right. And, we made a shout out to Sarah, who's one of our volunteers here. The festival wouldn't happen without a couple hundred volunteers that give of their time, their talent, and really help to make this festival happen. They carry us through the times when we're feeling maybe a little tired by day 3, 4, or 5. They help to carry us forward. Yeah. And Gilda's Club doesn't run without volunteers as well. So Laughfest is 5 days. Gilda's Club is 365, so it's like if you're interested at all in possibly a volunteer experience, please let us know, whether it's an individual or a group, whether it's one volunteer time or you want to volunteer regularly on a weekly basis.
You may check that out. I've got a group of leaders that's being developed and trained in community service and community work, and we may bring some over to volunteer.
Yeah.
Anything from driving to the meal preparation, from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, during the festival is when we have those wonderful Sharp collection vehicles out of there. Then we just have our Gilda's Club van. And, but we're on 6 acres on 1806 Bridge Street Northwest. And people don't always realize we're tucked back there in a residential community. It's beautiful. So we need a lot of help on the grounds. We need help preparing meals. We need help in a variety of different things. Yeah. So volunteering is always something that's available to folks year-round. And I'd be remiss if I didn't do a shout-out to the 25 full and part-time employees that I have the privilege and the honor to work alongside of.
Yeah.
This is one of the most dedicated individual groups of a team of professionals that I know. There's so many places they could probably earn more, better benefits, and yet they're committed to working at Gilda's Club, and for that I am forever grateful.
And that's a range of talent, too.
That is a range of talent.
Therapists and counselors as
well
as administrative support.
Social media, folks, that's not my gig, but it certainly is for some of the other.
It is needed,
too.
It's
so needed. And just the administrative offices, the grounds, our grounds and building manager. There's so many different people that make up that team, full and part-time, that are there really just walking alongside of people during some of life's toughest chapter, regardless of what the role might be.
Well, Wendy, this is your life's work. It's obvious, and you've
Thank you.
Advanced through leadership roles, but you've also identified something I think that is uniquely you. Are you a comedian as well?
Oh, goodness, no.
You don't have any jokes? You don't have any, even a knock-knock joke?
Oh, my goodness. You're putting me on the spot here. I know I have a couple of especially from the kids' jokes, I pick up a couple of there, right?
Right.
The one that reminds me, one of my sons is now, he's 33. And I still remember as a little kid, he used to ask me, how do you make a Kleenex dance? You put a little boogie in it.
Oh, wow.
So that's the one that I have. That's all I have. I know. So they keep me off stage for good reason.
Hey, I think even the corny, I'm a professional at dad jokes now. I'm even moving into granddad jokes, but I won't share any online. But for those who've been tuning in and listening and watching, we're laughing for a cause.
We are.
We're absolutely supporting the work of Gilda's Club here in the greater Grand Rapids and globally, pretty much, because we affect people globally. But Laughfest 2025, happening March 5th through 9th, all over the city of Grand Rapids. Check out the website. Hit that website again.
Yes, laughfestgr.org. Thank you for allowing me to share some of the serious behind the funny as well.
Yep, I think that's very vital and important. So we're excited about it. Thank you so much for tuning in today to another edition of Community Voices with Dr. Tarence Lauchie here on 91.9 FM, The People's Choice.
You've been listening to Community Voices with your host, Tarence Lauchie. Community Voices can be heard every Friday at 12 noon. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest, or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Until next week, let your voice be heard in the community.